G'day guys, welcome to Scotch Down Under. I'm Ken.
I'm Scott.
And there's no kibble.
Yeah.
No.
Not today.
No. So what are we discussing or drinking today?
Science.
Science. Oh yeah. No kibble. Science.
Yes, specifically the science of glass.
Glasses. Okay.
Yes, the different shapes of glasses and stuff like that. What's your favourite style of glass to drink whiskey out of?
Well, I kind of prefer this one.
That's a lot of whiskey. Rightio.
So Scott, we got a couple of glasses here, mate.
Just a few.
Just a couple.
I don't even know how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12.
12. Nice. Good number. Got a dozen.
Yeah, a dozen whiskey glasses.
Not in counting my everyday drinker. So yeah, speaking of the everyday drinker, beer's had drinking glasses for ages.
Yeah, probably longer than anyone else, I reckon.
Yeah, but whiskey hasn't.
No, not really.
Not really. When you go to the local pub and you ask for a whiskey, what do you usually get in glassware?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
This is what you usually get. A standard rocks, old-fashioned tumbler type glass. Yeah. Even if you ask without the rocks, or you're not having a cocktail, you just want a whiskey neat, that's usually what you end up with. And if you ask for something else, they look at you strangely, like, who are you?
Unless you're at a particularly high-end place.
If you're at a decent bar, then you might end up with something like a Capita. So the Capita, pretty much whiskey industry decided to steal this, because this is usually used for sherry and port, because they have some pretty cool characteristics, which we're going to talk about in a second. So the whiskey industry pretty much stole this glass. And do you know the other glass that the whiskey industry stole? Because the whiskey doesn't actually have, until recently, an actual glass of its own. We've just stole glasses.
Just back?
Similar, but like a snifter.
Yeah,
so a combination of the two. So like a snifter nosing glass, typically used for cognac. So they stole either the Capita or a nosing snifting glass. And this one's actually from Lefroy, go Isla, which is an awesome little snifter. And this one is a spey glass. So the actual name of it is the spey glass. But I actually like this one. It's actually pretty cool. And this one's like a big daddy version of it. And this is one of the Glenlivet, which is...
Yeah, because you typically, if you're buying like a gift pack or something of whiskey at Christmas time or something, you'll typically get something like this, or I believe this is a Johnny Walker one for the green label.
That's a Johnny Walker.
So you'll get something very similar to a tumbler.
Yeah.
And that one's a bit more stylized. I really do like that.
Yeah, I like the shape. It's got the tulipy shape, which we're going to talk about in a second, and same as this one. So from this side, these are all non-stemmed or stemless, and then over here, well, you can't really count this one because it's kind of a hybrid. These are stemmed. So one of the characteristics of whiskey glasses that some people do and don't like is the stem, because typically you go with...
It is a bit of a hot topic.
Yeah, so with wines and stuff, you typically have a stemmed glass, and they kind of feel a little bit more fragile.
Yeah.
And if you've got someone who's a big burly person that's throwing one of those things around, they don't look the most masculine.
No, not at all.
No. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas you got something like this, you got some rocks in there with some good liquor, you're like, yeah, that's a kind of a manly kind of a feel. So, do you know about the advantages and disadvantages of some of these glasses?
Well, I do know that. Well, how deep in the science are we going to go with this?
Well, we'll just touch on a little bit on the science. Yeah.
Because I do know that bottle shape?
Bottle shape.
Glass shape actually plays quite a role in when you're nosing a glass in for the first time, particularly why these ones are called nosing glasses or snifters.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that's why these all have the similar kind of bulb, like tulip shape, because that's what helps insinuate and concentrate those vapors to
That is the big
to the
one.
old snifter.
Yeah, so that is the big characteristic of a lot of these high-end glasses that are used for other alcohols and now including whiskey, is the shape for the nosing of the whiskey. Now, when it comes to drinking, not as much, but it still has an effect.
Because like cocktails and stuff, you're not going to be nosing it, and that's why they typically come in wider,
Yeah, nice big, either straight tumbler
Yeah.
style or a big wide kind of glass like that. Yeah, so and the same thing, if you're just drinking something that you're just sitting back with some mates on a Sunday arvo and you just want to have a, you know, a dram on the rocks, you're not really stressed about how it smells and tastes. But if you want to get a little bit more into it, then you need to have something that's going to accentuate those noses.
like the
Yeah, so we're going to touch on this little sucker right here. So you've seen us on our show, and we all seem to be drinking out of these. So this is the Glencairn, which if you have one, it's written right down on the bottom.
I thought you were going to drop it.
No, these are pretty reliable. You've seen other shows that they've done some pretty cool experiments, and these are quite robust little glasses. And that's one of the characteristics why it isn't a stemmed glass, because these are quite a robust glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old Capita is not as, you know, you kind of bump
thin
that.
glass as well.
Yeah, I mean the stem is quite thick, whereas this one here
Is a bit, yeah.
a bit
that
thin.
is completely tiny.
Yeah, and it is a
Probably
high-end
quite
glass.
strong, but it's...
Yeah, I wouldn't risk it. That thing's a little. It's a nice glass, but back in 2000-ish. Raymond Davidson established the Glencairn Crystal Company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he went about making some crystal glass products, and he wanted to make a glass for whiskey. And then a bunch of master distillers joined in on the act.
It's like 5 of them, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a whole
Yeah.
5. It was like a big high-end group of master distillers, and they all got together and they went through every little thing that you could think of when it comes to drinking whiskey, every aspect about it, the whole experience, and they came up with this. And this has been adopted.
By the Whisky Association, hasn't it? It's
Yeah.
the official whiskey of Scotland. The official glass of Scotland.
It is actually endorsed by the Scotch Whisky Association, so they're the governing body for everything Scotch in Scotland. For 2000, there was actually no official whiskey glass for drinking whiskey. We had to steal either the Capita or any one of these other style of glasses, and pretty much every industry in Scotland and Ireland uses this glass for their whiskey,
Yes.
which is pretty damn cool. Now, there are other whiskey glasses out there, predominantly specifically made for whiskey, like the Noland and the Riedel glass, and there's a few others, but none of them are official glasses. And something interesting about this year.
It's the 20th anniversary, isn't it?
Yeah, so this year is the 20th anniversary of the Glencairn glass. So it's been around for 20 years. So in the grand scheme of things, that's not very long that whiskey has actually had
Yeah.
an official glass.
Particularly in whiskey states, Jesus.
Yeah.
That's it's his first birthday at that point.
Yeah, it's his first birthday. And a lot of people are getting sick of these glasses now because they're so widespread. Over 25 million have been sold so far. And the numbers are skyrocketing.
They are just like, it is good to drink whiskey out of. Like they're very comfortable in your hand.
Yep.
And you can hold them whichever way that you want, from the base or from the bulb. Probably not from the lip.
No.
But it's
An all-round great whiskey glass.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
And that was one of the characteristics they really wanted to emphasise on, was the base of it. It's really easy to hang on to, and it's not something like this glass where you've got to be really careful and feel like you're going to drop it.
Because that base gets in the way, where this has got quite
Yeah.
a shrunken base.
Yep,
because
you can
it's
hang on to
lowered
it,
down.
and you're still not actually hanging on to the whiskey because you don't want to overheat it. Unless you're in a really cold climate, then you actually want to heat it up a little bit to open up those aromas. But yeah, it's a nice base. It's nice and solid. And one cool thing that I only just learnt recently, if you've got like a regular dram pour, you can actually put it on the side and it will stay there and not pour out, which is pretty cool. There's not many glasses you can do that with without your liquid going everywhere.
Try it with yours.
Yeah, it's not going to work with my daily drinker, yeah? Or even something like that, it's just going to pour straight out. Whereas this, yeah, you can lay it down and it actually stays in there.
Because I don't think it'd even work with...
Yeah, they're not really meant to.
It's weighted.
And yeah, so these are really all around a great little glass. The actual shape of this glass, like you were talking about before, that keeps the nose in it, is the tulip shape. So the liquor down the bottom there allows you to be able to see the actual colour if it's not artificially coloured.
Yeah.
And you can actually have a decent look at the liquor, and then you can nose it, and it's nice and easy to get your nose in there. It's not too big, not too small. It allows the alcohol vapours to come up the side and disappear and leave all the good stuff in there that you want to nose. Now, the Capita glass has the same kind of shape. It's not actually a tulip, it just goes straight bulbous and straight up to narrow, but it's really narrow in the actual neck or the hole of it. And the problem with this glass is it's hard to get your nose in there, but also when you're drinking it, you really have to tip it up almost like you're raising to the sky. The Glencairn has been criticised for having to tip it up quite far, but nothing like what you have to do with a Copita.
I'm guessing that these would have all the same issues because it's the same shape.
Yeah, so most of these are all tulip shapes. So this one here, which is a Royal Leedham Specialist Whisky Tasting Glass, and this is very prototypical of what you'll see if they don't use Capitas. You'll see a glass like this if you go to a tasting or you go to a distillery. You'll see glasses like this. And then the next one along, which is quite interesting, I actually quite like this glass. This is actually by Alexa Distillers. In cooperation with Glencairn, they come up with this glass. Now Alexa Distillers, they actually produce quite a few products. They've got the Port Skeg, the Elements of Isla, which are pretty cool branch, and they also do the Black Tot.
So is it just a Glencairn on a stick?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. The actual bulb shape is almost identical, except a little bit narrower and smaller. Yeah, the overall, like you can actually put that inside it. It's a little bit smaller, but it's got a really thick stem, and this is actually quite a solid feeling glass. So if you prefer the stem type of glass, this one actually works really well. And it looks quite good.
I'm not a stem fan.
And then, yeah, this one is like the beast. This is the creme de la creme. So this, I can't pronounce any of these words, but it is the Luigi Bromelli Vintuex Spirits Tasting Glass. And this thing has been very well received by a lot of people that drink whiskey. They really enjoy this glass. It's got a big wide base. Got their branding down there, and it feels really good in hand, except for that base is quite large, which has the advantage that you're not going to accidentally tip it over and topple it.
Yeah, well, they all kind of have their own little niche that they like to deal with. I like the
Yeah,
I'm favourable to a rocks glass as well.
Yeah, like
tumbler.
yeah, if you're just having some, sitting around with some mates and having rocks on
Honestly, I'd probably go for this style more. I don't like the wide mouth.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the wide mouth myself. I like the straight, old-fashioned style where it comes straight up. Yeah, this is a good all-round, everyday drinking glass if you just want to sit back. Or if you want to make some cocktails, like a highball or something like that. Put a big chunk of ice in there. That's a great glass. And obviously, we've got a shot glass here. Please don't shoot your whiskey. It's not what it's meant for.
No.
At least put it in a glass and have some, rocks on it or something like that. Don't just shoot it back because you're just wasting it. And
Painful.
yeah, very much so. And this little glass, I haven't tried this one yet.
Neither have I.
But I think it's actually really kind of a friendly glass when you're getting in to know your whiskey. You're really getting in there and knowing it. Yeah.
There's not much clearance between whiskey and nose.
No. And the spey glass, I don't mind this one at all. If I was going to have, just an average whiskey that I just wanted to sit back on a lounge with and just enjoy it, and not worrying about, touching this and letting it fall over, this is quite a good one because it's got a nice wide base. You can hang it onto your hand and you can, you look kind of sophisticated with it. And it's similar to this one here from Glenlivet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously this is pretty synonymous. Everyone has seen these and used these. There's nothing wrong with them other than the fact that, like we said before, they're a little bit narrow and you have to really tip your head up to get a dram. And then, yeah, going to the stem ones, if you prefer the stem stuff, they're all pretty cool. Pretty good. But yeah, I'm like you. I always go back to the Glencairn.
Yeah. Alright, well.
Yeah.
With that, I reckon.
Not that we have any whiskey. I'll grab my glass. So, until next time,
Have a good
have a good one.